Hi and welcome back to my shop. Today I'm adding a new, bigger and better router table to my tool set, and I think you'll like what I did with the storage options to make this really flexible while also paying attention to the budget. I hope you stick around and enjoy this build. Let's go for it. So I'm operating in a modest size workshop. I'm pleased that I found this Boris Centipede, which is a portable workspace that pops up to 4x8 at 30 inches high. Awesome for this kind of work. I've obviously got some sheet goods to knock down here for this build. Ended up using one sheet of 3/4 inch ply and less than half a sheet of 1/2 inch material. Just finally checking up my dimensions and making sure that I'm cutting everything correctly, as you see here. Once I've knocked down everything to rough size, I then come over to the table saw to fine cut everything to actual dimensions. I'm using my Incra LS fence for the rip cutting against the blade and the sliding table for any of the cross cutting. The sliding table is awesome. If you like this kind of material, this is a great time to hit that like button. Moving on to the Craig pocket hole joiner to prep all of the pieces for assembly. This is the easiest way for me to build shop furniture without having to glue up necessarily the main parts while still resulting in a really strong structure. I have the pocket hole desktop unit screwed onto a cart, and this allows me to safely and securely clamp material while also having the integrated dust port. So there's really a very efficient way to get this job done. Next is assembly of the base unit. I use a square for getting it set up right, long clamps on the bottom and flipped around clamps on the top to press it outwards to get it in place. Then I'll start using some of the subcomponents that I've cut as spacers initially to make sure that when I do fit them in, they will fit perfectly into the space. Instead of trying to just measure it and then hope they fit, just use the pieces for spacers. At this point, clamping it makes sure that the pocket holes don't move. They have a tendency to do that if it's not glued and clamped properly. So it's a rinse and repeat process to do both sides. Once they're done acting as spacers, I will slide the back panels out to the back and screw them from the inside. While the pocket hole method is functionally strong, it's not really attractive, so generally we try and hide them inside of the cabinet. And yep, I made a mistake. I managed to put the screws facing outwards in a very narrow part, so we got bubbles pushing through, and oops. Now, had this been for a customer, I would have been a whole lot more upset, but since it was for the shop, I just flipped the backs around, so you see the screw holes, but no big deal on the back of this shop furniture. And I was then able to iron the edge banding to get the bumps out for the most part. So no major damage done, and moving on to putting on those top brace parts. The reason it looks so odd is the actual back panels are 1/2 inch thick, and I wanted to have a 3/4 inch panel around the top that I can use to secure the top of the router table to the cabinet. So that's what's going on there. For reference, I will also add links in the section below in the more information to the various tools and components that I use in case you're interested. While we're at it, if you have not yet done so, please subscribe also and hit the little bell, which will notify you every time I post a new video for your enjoyment. Back to the project, as you can see, I've added some blocks into the tops of the compartments there for attaching to the phenolic router tabletop. And right now I'm busy adding on the cutoff switch, which I'm surface mounting. I've figured out the space so that it just fits underneath the tabletop sticking out the front. I'm also drilling 2 holes with a Forstner bit to allow the cable to go through. Yeah, I think this is going to be just perfect. Next, I'm adding a couple of fixed shelves for the containers that are going to be in the bottom half of the cabinets. For that, I actually made some specific spacers with the exact height I need to make sure I get that right. These again are attached with pocket holes from the inside of the underside of the shelves. I almost forgot, you'll see that on the bottom of the cabinet there I've added the casters. I've found these really cool swivel and adjustable height ones for leveling. So these are the container store containers that I was mentioning. I love that I can pull out the container, put it on a counter where I can work in it, and then put it away. I can even reconfigure the shop as needed. You'll see around my shop I've followed this some drawers and a lot of containers approach. Moving along, I am now drilling some holes into the top panels of the cabinet to attach it then to the underside of the phenolic top. The top does come with pre-drilled holes, but they're not where I need them to be, so I did look it up, and it's quite easy to drill into that phenolic material as long as you use a sharp bit and just make sure you don't drill right through the top. And so that's how I ended up attaching it. For some reason I don't have a video of that specific exercise, but I think it's pretty straightforward. What I'm showing now is that I bought a 10-foot heavy-duty extension cord, which I then cut to place the cutoff switch in line with a receptacle that goes into the router box through the little opening there. That's the dust collector box. Moving around to the back of the unit, you can better see the Incra dust collector unit. Clean sweep. This is awesome. I've got it on my other router table. It does a fantastic job of getting the dust away, and with this access port you can check it and clean it out as needed. Okay, here you can get a better view of the phenolic top that I was talking about. This is from Woodpeckers. I got the 43-inch by 27, the largest unit that they have available. Phenolic is a man-made material which is very flat and kind of smooth, so the wood can move easily across the router table without any kind of getting stuck. I've also pre-assembled the drop-in router unit, which I'm busy leveling, as you can see in this video here. Initially rough leveling and then very fine adjustments. I'm going to make sure that's as flat as possible. Inside the router lift, I have already pre-installed a new router motor. I chose to go with a Bora 3¼ horsepower soft start motor. This was recommended by Stumpy Nubs on his channel as well, and it is a beast. It is really quiet and the startup is really soft. So I am looking forward to seeing what I can produce with this. Moving on, it's time to add the Woodpecker universal fence. This is also an awesome device with micro adjustment, great dust collection capability. So I have pre-assembled the fence itself, and that's so easy to just add to the table. Here's a close-up of the lift itself. It's a Incra and Woodpecker collaborative unit, which is called a quick lift. On the back side of the unit, you can see how I've set up dust collection from the top of the table as well as from the dust collector underneath. And now it's time to try it out. Let's see how well this works. I have a piece of scrap wood and I'm going to do the lift thing. Yeah, you can tell from my expression there, I'm pretty surprised at how efficiently I can move that spindle up and down. Usually it's a whole bunch of winding on my other lift, so this quick lift looks like it's going to be a real winner. I'm popping in a 45-degree bit just to chamfer on a piece of scrap wood, just to kind of test it all and make sure it's working right. So you still do fine adjustments with a handle, but there isn't a lock, which my other table has. That seems to be inherent. Quick mechanical test to make sure that it's spinning and everything sounds correct. Then adjust the fence. This bit actually has a bearing, so I probably didn't need to use the fence. I just wanted to try it out, I guess. Set that up and run my test piece. Vacuum seems to be working good. You can hear that soft start kick in slowly. Wow, there is no dust on the top of the counter. That dust extraction on top and bottom is awesome. And as you can see here, the GSM hold downs from my old unit have transitioned to here, and now I have these two holes that I need to build some drawers for. So that's the next stage that we're moving into right now. I've got some scrap plywood that I am cutting down into drawer sides. Back to the table saw to do that. Pretty straightforward exercise here. Actually, I have two different depths of drawer sides, so that quick adjustment makes that. Next, I need to trim those sides to the right length, and I'll use the slide saw part. I'll first clean up the one end and then use my stop to get them all exactly the same. Slide saw, flip stop, way to go. It's kind of hypnotic, but we'll just do a couple and then skip to the end here. So I'm just building really simple drawers. They are just glued and pinnailed together with the bottom piece really keeping the square and giving it strength. So for that, I'm making a rabbet underneath each of the pieces that'll fit onto the bottom. You can see there's a piece of 1/4 inch bottom that I will use. And of course, the main story here is that I'm using the new router table to do these rabbets, and using the GSM hold downs to guide it against the fence and across. And there we have the carcasses for the new drawers, 2 smaller ones and 2 larger ones. There's my old one, just by the way, my old router lift, which is still in use for doing freehand work. I don't need to use the fence on that, but it is accelerating my workflow. Next up, using a Rockler drawer guide jig to put in the drawer guides. These are 18-inch drawer slides, and working into that little narrow space is a little bit of a mission, so I'll skip the boring parts and we'll kind of get on with it here. Okay, the next thing is to add the drawer slides to the drawers themselves. I like it. Okay, so TJ, the quality manager, stopped in to check how things are going. So far, so good. We have the 4 drawer carcasses in. So the next mission is to make some fronts. Again, trying to keep it on a budget. I found some offcuts of walnut from previous jobs, and they were different thicknesses. So first step was to get them all the same. Then it's off to the jointer to get one clean edge. And then back to the table saw to cut these pieces to size, the faces. Turns out I actually only needed the two longer pieces. I'm not sure why. I thought I needed that shorter, thicker one as well. But nevertheless, I was able to cut out of the two long pieces the four faces. This is really nice figured walnut as well. So these are actually going to look pretty, but like I said, it was scrap material, so that's awesome. Of course, we still need to do the cross cutting to get them to the actual size. So similar process to before, set up the sliding table for the length I need, and then accurately set up my stop for the first piece, and then rinse and repeat for all four pieces to end up being the same. Now here's a little don't do this at home thing. I didn't go right through the blade, and then I, for some reason, slid it back. Bad. So for best practice, try and push right through and not pull it back when it's in a stop like that, because it can jam up and cause major issues. And then, of course, everyone's favorite, we've got to do the sanding. I always advocate for sanding as much as you can before you do assembly. Of course, sanding is so much fun, I needed a little distraction. So onto the router bits. I was going to 3D print a holder, but I really liked the foam insert from PowerTech that I had used in my previous setup. So I found a couple more and trimmed to size on the table saw. Finishing up next, and for some reason I didn't record the actual finishing, but I used the Natura One Coat in a walnut stain finish, which gives it that beautiful dark look, and then on to drilling holes for the handles. I have a jig that I believe I got from Rockler as well. I'll try and find it and link it, that I've had for a while, that is awesome for setting up and repeating this in a very easy way. And then just a quick pass with a deburring bit to just get any little nasties off the edges of the holes, so that it all screws up nice and easily. Now, if you haven't realized it yet, I use a lot of jigs just to make things go quicker, and I've had this draw face mounting jig also from Rockler for some time. Super easy, makes it a breeze to put faces on and get them lined up easily and exactly. These first holes that I'm drilling are to create an opportunity to screw the faces to the drawers themselves from the inside of the drawer once they're held in place with the little jig I just showed you. So using the jig, I can align it and get the spacing exactly right all around, and then just pull it out, and while it's in the clamps, put in the screws to hold the face permanently in place. Really quick and easy. With all the drawer faces now installed, I can use the holes that I pre-drilled as guides to put holes through the actual drawer carcass, and then from the back put in the screws for the handles. Very simple, and everything's going together just as planned. Okay, it's all done, and this is the container I was talking you about. This one's got routing table accessories right there where I need it. Let's take a look inside the drawers. I've set the top left up for my tools for adjusting the table, so that's nice and handy. Second drawdown, I'm actually putting the router bits that belong to my X-Carve, which is located close by. Finally, they're off the top of the counter there. And then on the right side, I've got 2 drawers of router bits, mostly half-inch that I use. I have some quarter-inch as well, but for the most part, they're half-inch bits, and a lot of more complex bits for rail and style doors and so on in that side. So I've got space for expansion, but all in all, it came together just perfectly. Well, that was another fun project. Thanks for joining. And TJ seems to have signed off the paperwork, so we're good to go. Thanks again for watching, and remember that any day in the shop is better than a day in the office.